settle in close, because this is a story about a very small man with a very large opinion of himself. And honestly, good for him. Our hero is a tailor. A little tailor, stitching away in his shop one fine morning when a woman comes by selling jam. Sweet jam, fresh jam, the kind that draws flies like flies. He spreads some on a heel of bread, sets it aside, and goes back to his work. But those flies come buzzing and crawling over his lovely jam, and something in him simply snaps. He snatches up a scrap of cloth and brings it down. Crack. One magnificent stroke. And when he lifts it, he counts. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. 7 flies, dead at one blow. He sits back in his chair, and I imagine there is a very long, very satisfied silence. Now here's where our tailor makes a decision that will change everything. He doesn't think, well, I've killed 7 flies. That's a fine afternoon's work. No, he thinks, the world should know about this. He takes his best thread and his steadiest hand, and he embroiders it right onto a belt. 7 at one blow. Beautiful, bold letters. Then he buckles that belt around his waist, looks at himself in whatever small mirror a tailor keeps, and decides he is done with his shop forever. He tucks a piece of old cheese into his pocket, just something he happened to find, and a bird he catches along the way. Tucks it in too, and off he goes. Out the door, down the lane, into the wide open world, the road stretching ahead of him like a promise. He doesn't know yet what's coming, but he walks like he does. Up in the hills, he finds 2 giants sleeping under a great oak tree, snoring so loud the branches tremble. Most men would turn around quietly and go back the way they came. Our tailor climbs the tree. He fills his pockets with stones and begins dropping them, one by one, onto the first giant's face. The giant wakes up furious, shoves the second giant, says, "Stop hitting me," goes back to sleep. Then the tailor drops stones on the second one. Same thing, back and forth, until both giants are on their feet, roaring, absolutely convinced the other is to blame. They go at each other with a fury that shakes the hillside. Trees shudder, birds scatter, and the little tailor watches from his branch with what I can only imagine is tremendous professional satisfaction. When it's over, both giants are dead. He climbs down, dusts off his jacket, and carries on. Word of the giant slayer reaches a king, and that king has a few of the problems he'd love to hand off to someone fearless. A unicorn, for one, tearing through his forest, dangerous as a sword on 4 hooves. So off goes the tailor, very cheerful about it all. He finds the unicorn soon enough. You can hear it crashing through the undergrowth, that single horn gleaming like polished bone. And the tailor, he doesn't run. He steps behind a tree, and he waits. The unicorn lowers its head and charges, full speed, aimed right at him. At the very last moment, the tailor steps aside, neat as a stitch, and that horn drives straight into the trunk of the tree, buried deep, holding fast. The unicorn pulls and struggles and cannot get free. The tailor walks around, calm as a Sunday morning, loops a rope around its neck, chops the horn loose from the tree, and leads it back to the king, like a very unusual gift. The king, you'd think, might be satisfied. But no, there is also a wild boar in his forest, enormous and mean, tusks like curved blades. the kind of creature that has sent hunters home in pieces. The tailor goes in. The boar finds him almost immediately, charges through the bracken, hot-breathed and furious, and the tailor runs. Not because he's afraid, mind you, because he has spotted a little stone chapel ahead, door hanging open, and he has an idea. He sprints inside, straight through the chapel, and out a side window, quick and nimble as only a tailor can be. The boar crashes in after him, too big to make the window, and the tailor doubles back, slams the heavy door shut, and bars it. The boar throws itself against the walls. The chapel holds. The tailor goes and fetches the king's huntsmen, who come to find one furious boar neatly contained. He bows. They stare, 3 impossible tasks, and the little tailor has done every one. So the king, who is a man of his word even when he wishes he weren't, offers what he promised: his daughter's hand in marriage, and a life of comfort in the palace. The princess is charming. The wedding is grand. Our tailor goes to bed that night a king in waiting, which is a remarkable improvement on his morning of killing flies. But the old king, the father, he is not so pleased. He begins to wonder what exactly he has let through his gates. He talks to his advisors. They talk to the tailor's servants. And one night, when the candles are out and the palace is quiet, a small group of soldiers creeps to the bedroom door with very dark intentions. They will wait until the tailor sleeps deep, and then they will be done with him. Simple as that. Or so they think. They press their ears to the door, and they listen. And they hear him, muttering in his sleep, turning over, still half inside some dream. And what does he say? He says, "Sew that seam tight. Finish the collar before morning. The coat won't press itself." All the habits of a man who spent the years bent over a workbench, stitching before dawn. The soldiers look at each other in the dark hallway. They have come to murder a man who defeated giants, outwitted a unicorn, locked up a wild boar with his bare hands. And he is in there, dreaming about hemming. One of them whispers that they should go. Another is already gone. By the time the tailor rolls over and pulls up his blanket with a contented sigh, the hallway is empty. His sleepy muttering has done what no sword could. He stays warm in his bed, and he does not know a thing. And that, my dear, is how a little tailor with a piece of stale bread and a lucky swat of cloth became a king. Nobody ever did tell him how close it came that night in the hallway. Or if they did, I imagine he just smiled and said nothing, the way clever people do. He wore his belt, 7 at one blow, for the rest of his days, though by then everyone knew the story, and it made people smile instead of tremble. He was a good king, I think. A surprising one. Not the strongest, not the tallest, certainly not the most dignified, but quick-minded and light on his feet, and never, ever afraid of what he didn't know. The fire is burning low now. The night outside is deep and still, and somewhere in the comfortable dark of some old kingdom, a little tailor is sleeping soundly and dreaming, very likely, of his next adventure.